To begin today's story, it was a terrifying night inside a hearse parked at a car garage in Binh Thanh. And among all the ghost stories you've heard on this channel, this is one that the storyteller says still haunts him the most. Every single time he remembers it, his whole body breaks out in goosebumps. So without making everyone wait any longer, let's get into the story. Back then, this guy was from the Mekong Delta. When he turned 18, he moved to Saigon to learn auto repair. He had an older brother who knew the owner of a garage in Binh Thanh. So his brother asked the owner to let him apprentice there. After working there for about 6 months, the security guard quit his job. Since nobody was left to stay overnight at the garage, the owner asked him to sleep there and watch the place at night. In return, he would get extra money, which was cheaper than hiring a new security guard anyway. Every night while guarding the garage, he slept on a loft above the workshop, because from up there he could see the entire garage clearly. There was also another apprentice working there before him. Let's call him T. Normally T didn't stay overnight, but the two of them were very close friends. So whenever T got home late, he would just crash there and sleep with him at the garage. Everything was completely normal until one fateful Saturday evening around 6 o'clock. That afternoon, the garage received a 16-seat vehicle for repairs. But this wasn't an ordinary van. It was a hearse, a vehicle used to transport coffins and dead bodies. The owner of the vehicle dropped it off there and said he would wait until Monday for the repair estimate because the next day was Sunday and the garage would be closed. So the hearse had to stay parked inside the garage for the entire weekend. At first, the hearse was parked very close to the loft where he slept. From above, he could see the vehicle very clearly because it was only a short distance away. Out of curiosity, he went down to take a look inside the hearse. Inside, there was a white wooden platform fixed tightly in the center of the vehicle. On top of it sat an incense burner with 2 candles placed on both sides. Honestly, he wasn't scared at all at that point. The hearse driver even joked with him. "Damn, kid, you sleep here alone every night? Aren't you scared?" He calmly replied, "No, sir. Back in my hometown, I've seen stuff like this many times already. I'm used to it." The driver just smiled strangely at him before leaving the hearse there. That night, after dinner, he sat outside near the garage entrance to relax. Suddenly, T, his friend in the workshop, showed up and invited him to buy some food and drinks so they could have a little drinking session at the garage. That was normal for them on weekends. So he agreed immediately. The two of them rode out to buy snacks and alcohol. When they returned and pulled open the garage door, T noticed a hearse parked inside and immediately asked, "What the hell is that creepy vehicle doing here?" He explained that it had broken down and was waiting until Monday for repairs. T asked him nervously, "You not scared of that thing?" He laughed and replied, "What's there to be scared of? We didn't kill anyone." After that, the two of them carried a table and some chairs outside the garage entrance and started drinking together. They drank a lot while chatting and telling random stories. Around 11 at night, while they were still drinking, they suddenly heard a loud sliding noise coming from inside the hearse, as if someone had just opened or shut one of its doors. He immediately went inside to check, but after looking around carefully, he saw absolutely nothing unusual. Besides, the garage lights were extremely bright at night, so he figured there was nothing to worry about. He went back outside to continue drinking. At that point, T was already tipsy. T laughed and said, "Ghosts? Come on, man. I'm only scared of living people. Dead people can't do anything. Then T said he would sleep there with him that night. Since T was already drunk, he stopped letting him drink more. Besides, when staying overnight at the garage, they couldn't get too wasted because tow trucks sometimes arrived unexpectedly in the middle of the night, and someone had to wake up to open the gate. Also, that area around the garage had a lot of addicts and criminals wandering around at night, so they stayed somewhat alert. He told T to go upstairs and sleep first while he cleaned up the drinking table downstairs. But while cleaning, he suddenly felt a cold chill running down his spine, as if someone was standing somewhere far away silently staring at him. He looked around the garage carefully, but saw nothing. Trying not to think too much, he hurried to finish cleaning and then headed upstairs to sleep. But to reach the loft, he had to walk right past the hearse. As he walked by, he suddenly felt as though someone was sitting inside the vehicle watching him. He slowly stepped closer and peeked inside. Nobody was there. At first, he thought maybe some drug addicts had secretly sneaked into the garage to steal something, because earlier that afternoon he had already noticed a few suspicious people walking around staring at the hearse. Right at that moment, he suddenly heard the sound of running water coming from the bathroom, but all the bathroom doors were closed. Nobody should have been inside. He looked up and saw T already sleeping soundly on the loft. So he walked into the bathroom and discovered that the faucet had somehow turned on by itself. He assumed T must have used the bathroom earlier, while drunk and forgotten to close the tap. He shut the water off and went back upstairs. T was already sleeping like a dead man. He checked his phone. It was already after midnight. As he lay there trying to sleep, he suddenly heard the sound of a key turning in an ignition, like someone was trying to start the hearse downstairs. He immediately jolted upright. At that moment, deep down, he knew something was wrong. Terrified, he folded his hands and whispered, "I'm just a kid. I don't know anything. If there are spirits here, please don't scare me." The moment he finished praying, he looked down toward the hearse and saw the entire vehicle shaking violently, as if someone inside was rocking it back and forth. Panicking, he shook T awake. T groggily asked what happened. He pointed toward the hearse and said, "That thing's been shaking like somebody's inside it." T rubbed his eyes, stared for a moment, then said, "Fine, let's go downstairs and check it out." The two of them slowly climbed down. T grabbed a metal pipe as a weapon just in case. They opened the hearse doors carefully, but there was absolutely nothing inside. T laughed nervously and said, "See? Nothing there. Let's just sleep." The two returned to the loft. T fell asleep almost immediately again, but he couldn't sleep anymore. After lying awake for a long time, exhaustion finally overcame him, and he drifted off for a short moment. Then suddenly, he heard T beside him making choking noises in his sleep. He opened his eyes and froze in absolute horror. There was a man sitting on top of T's body. The man's face was covered in blood. One of his eyes dangled grotesquely from its socket. His teeth were rotten and blackened. The creature was pinning T down and strangling him. He himself became completely paralyzed with fear. He couldn't move at all. T could only make muffled choking sounds beneath the ghost's grip. Terrified, he could do nothing except silently chant Buddhist prayers in his head. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, over and over again. Suddenly, the bloody man slowly turned toward him and smiled. The ghost said in a mocking voice, "You too drank alcohol. Without offering me any, I'll kill both of you." The way the spirit laughed was horrifying beyond description. Even now, He says he still can't forget that laugh. He kept praying desperately in his mind. After a while, T's body finally stopped struggling. But right then, he suddenly realized someone was sitting beside him on the loft. He turned slightly and saw a figure wearing ancient traditional robes, almost like a warrior from an old martial arts film. The figure held a long sword in one hand. With a single slash toward the bloody ghost, the spirit instantly disappeared. Even then, he continued chanting prayers nonstop in his head. A few minutes later, his body slowly regained control again. He immediately grabbed T and shook him hard. T's entire body was drenched in sweat. After being shaken for a while, T finally opened his eyes. It took him several moments before he could even speak again. Terrified, T whispered, "Oh my God, I felt like I died and came back to life." Then he grabbed him and said, "We have to get the hell out of here right now." The two of them immediately grabbed their belongings, opened the garage door, and stumbled outside. Their legs were shaking so badly they could barely walk. He drove T to a late-night cafe near Hong, an intersection that stayed open all night. After sitting there drinking water for a while, T finally calmed down enough to explain what had happened. T said that when the two of them checked the hearse earlier, after they returned to the loft, he still hadn't fallen asleep yet. Suddenly, his entire body became completely stiff. Then the bloody man appeared and climbed onto his chest, choking him. Around them were many other spirits staring at him with horrifying eyes. The spirits cursed him because he had mocked ghosts earlier and said he wasn't afraid of dead people. They also mocked him for drinking alcohol without making offerings to them. One of the spirits grinned with an impossibly wide mouth and said, "We'll strangle both of you to death." After hearing all this, he pulled down T's shirt collar to check his neck and saw dark bruised fingerprints around it, as though someone had truly strangled him. The two of them stayed at the cafe until after 6 in the morning before daring to return to the garage. T immediately told him, "You need to tell the boss what happened. You can't stay there alone anymore." But he already knew the owner never believed in ghosts, so he was afraid the boss would just yell at them for getting drunk and imagining things. Still, T insisted they talk to him. Around 8 in the morning, the garage owner arrived with his wife. The two boys told him the entire story, and T even showed the bruises on his neck. At first, the owner didn't believe them at all. He said they were just drunk and hallucinating. But his wife believed it because she herself had experienced supernatural things before. She called a spiritual master she knew and asked him to come over. About an hour later, the master arrived at the cafe where they were waiting. After hearing everything, he looked directly at them and said, "You boys were lucky. If protective deities hadn't intervened, you both would already be dead." Later, he followed them back to the garage and inspected the hearse carefully. After circling the vehicle once, the master said, "Last night this hearse was surrounded by wandering spirits. Fortunately, guardian spirits are protecting this place, but the garage owner hasn't built an altar to honor them yet." He told the owner to set up a small altar and incense burner for the guardian spirits near the garage entrance. After that, the owner immediately contacted the hearse driver and told him to remove the vehicle from the garage. He refused to repair it anymore. The experience had terrified everyone too much. And that was the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to support the channel for more horror stories in the future.